I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did. So all fine. I had no control over this company. These were guys who committed fraud. They conned me.
All right, so a few days ago, we broke down the Kawhi Leonard scandal after Pablo Torre dropped an absolute bomb on the NBA.
And it involves one of the 6 richest people in the world, a cardinal sin of sports, an unsolved mystery as well that I've been investigating for 7 months.
For those just joining us, Torre spent 7 months investigating and found documents showing that Kawhi Leonard got paid $28 million. Wait, actually, it's now $48 million through a fraudulent tree planting company that Steve Ballmer invested in. Torre's investigation uncovered over 3,000 pages of documents and included interviews with 7 former employees of this company called Aspiration. The smoking gun is a former employee straight up told Torre that Kawhi's deal was to circumvent the salary cap. The basic allegation from Torre's report was Ballmer invested $50 million in Aspiration. Aspiration then paid Kawhi Leonard $48 million for a no-show job, where he never had to do any actual endorsement work, and the contract specifically said it would be terminated if Kawhi stopped playing for the Clippers. Torre couldn't find a single instance of Kawhi Leonard ever promoting this company. No posts, no appearances, nothing. And if you haven't seen our first video breaking down all the details of Torre's investigation, it's literally our last video prior to this. I'm also going to leave it in the end screen for you guys to check it out. But since that video dropped, Steve Ballmer went on ESPN and somehow made things even more suspicious. Mark Cuban started a Twitter war defending him, and we found out that this whole thing might be way bigger than just one player and one team. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news to your device. And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Our NFL debut play that was posted on my Instagram story hit for $250, and our Dak Prescott free square play is looking good so far. But now PrizePicks gave us an additional free square. Lamar Jackson just needs 1 passing yard for his square to cash, and to take advantage of this opportunity, this is who I'm pairing him with. First, make sure you sign up for PrizePicks by clicking in the link in the description down below, or use my promo code microphone to get $50 in lineups when you make a play of $5 or more. Once you do that, take Lamar Jackson's free square, obviously, then take Baker Mayfield to go over 14.5 rush yards versus Atlanta. He's been over this in 4 of his last 5 games. And then take Joe Flacco to throw for over 241.5 pass yards versus the worst defense in the NFL. There's no question in my mind that that game's going to be a shootout. You put $25 down, you can make $150. On top of that, we partnered with Fantasy Aces to get you even more plays. These guys are on the cutting edge when it comes to researching the best lines to give you an edge, and since it's the earliest part of the season, the chances of you hitting are significantly higher because Vegas doesn't have statistical data to go off of early in the season. If you're interested in that, check out the WAP link in my description down below, and thank you PrizePicks for today's sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? We have to open this up by setting the stakes here for a second, because as I said in my last video, the last time that this happened was when Joe Smith tried to sign 3 consecutive contracts with the Minnesota Timberwolves so the Timberwolves could earn his bird rights in return for them promising him to get a bigger contract in the future. The result of this was the Timberwolves lost 5 first-round picks. The crazy part here is the Los Angeles Clippers already don't have their first-round picks for the next 5 years. So if the NBA was to step in and punish the Los Angeles Clippers, this is a team that could not have a first-round pick until 2035. And Steve Ballmer seems to understand this, because you can just sense the desperation in his voice when he did this ESPN interview with Ramona Shelburne.
At this stage, I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did, let alone the specific contract with Kawhi.
Wow, just wow. This man is worth $150 billion. He ran Microsoft. He's supposed to be one of the smartest businessmen on the planet. And he goes on SportsCenter with Ramona Shelburne and basically says, I got scammed. That's his defense, that he, Steve Ballmer, got conned by a tree planting company.
I read their business plan. Remember, they defrauded me. They defrauded many other investors much bigger than me. But I read the business plan and said, hey, this makes sense. We made an investment in the company. So all fine. I had no control over this company.
I'm sorry, am I the only one that doesn't buy this at all whatsoever. I mean, I feel like this is the billionaire equivalent of saying, I got hacked. And here's where it gets interesting. Ballmer told Shelburne that the Clippers introduced Kawhi Leonard to Aspiration in November 2021, after all the deals were already done. He said,
"We were done. They were done. We were done with Kawhi. We were done with Aspiration. Deals were all locked and loaded."
Okay, Steve, but riddle me this. If you were done with everything, why does Kawhi's contract with Aspiration specifically say it gets terminated if he stops playing for the Clippers? Why would an independent company care about that? And then Shelburne asked him about the court documents from Aspiration's bankruptcy, the one that literally lists Kawhi's company as a creditor. Ballmer's response?
I don't know anything about the court documents on this. I haven't seen them and I don't know. I'm not trying to be, I don't know. I really don't know.
But wait, in the same interview, he also said he's been cooperating with the Department of Justice investigation into Aspiration. How are you cooperating with the feds, but you haven't seen the bankruptcy documents? Make it make sense, Steve. You can't have it both ways. Steve would say in the interview,
"These were guys who committed fraud. They conned me.
You're one of the richest men in America.
They conned me. I made an investment in these guys thinking it was on the up and up, and they conned me."
The man said they conned me 3 times in one sentence. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like someone trying really hard to establish themselves as a victim. That sounds like something that your publicist would say before you go into an interview like this.
Keep saying the words that they conned me.
But here's the new information that wasn't in the original Tory report, and this is huge. The Boston Sports Journal found evidence that the deal wasn't just $28 million. There was another $20 million in stocks, bringing the total to $48 million. And guess how much Steve Ballmer invested into Aspiration? $50 million. So we're supposed to believe it's a coincidence that Ballmer invested $50 million and Kawhi got $48 million? Here's where it gets even funnier. Mark Cuban jumped into this mess, and it got wild. Cuban tweeted, "I'm on Team Ballmer. As much as I wish they circumvented the salary cap, first, Steve isn't that dumb." It's kind of funny because Mark Cuban is saying,
Steve isn't that dumb.
but Steve is coming out and saying,
No, I am that dumb. That's why I got caught.
his argument is if Ballmer was really trying to funnel money to Kawhi, he wouldn't let the company go bankrupt because that would expose everything. But here's the thing, Mark. When you're running a $248 million fraud scheme and the FBI is closing in, do you really think about protecting one basketball player's payments anymore? Pablo Torre actually responded to Cuban, and they ended up doing a whole debate about it. Torre made a great point. Why would a company that's allegedly defrauding investors give Kawhi Leonard, who they never used for marketing, more money than Leonardo DiCaprio, Drake, and Robert Downey Jr. combined? Unless it wasn't really Aspiration's money. Unless it was always meant to be a pass-through from Ballmer to Kawhi. And here's something nobody's really talking about. The timing of when Ballmer appeared on ESPN. It was late at night, got bumped to ESPN2 because of tennis, and it seemed rushed, almost like they wanted to get ahead of something. What do they know that we don't? But the really interesting part, let's talk about what Steve Ballmer didn't say. Shelburne asked him directly if Kawhi Leonard's camp had asked for any additional impermissible benefits since 2019. Ballmer's response was super careful.
So since 2019, has Dennis Robertson asked you for any other benefits that would be in violation of the league rules?
They know the rules. We know the rules. If anything's not clear, we remind ourselves what the rules are, and we make absolutely clear we're going to abide by those rules, and they understand them as well. And it's important for them to abide by them, which they have.
So that's not a no, that's lawyer speak for I'm not answering that question. And remember, this is the second time Uncle Dennis has been connected to requests for illegal benefits. In 2019, he allegedly asked the Los Angeles Lakers for part ownership of the team, a private jet, and a house. The Lakers said no, the Raptors said no. Then suddenly Kawhi signs with the Clippers for less money than he could have gotten elsewhere. Now we find out he got $48 million from a company Ballmer invested in. Come on, bro. There's also this detail that just came out. When Aspiration was falling apart and couldn't pay people, guess whose contract they prioritized? According to Tory's source, Uncle Dennis personally called to demand payment when the company was struggling. Why would Uncle Dennis be that involved in an endorsement deal unless he knew it was more than just an endorsement? So an NBA executive spoke anonymously and said that this might be viewed as more than just salary cap circumvention because Kawhi Leonard was already at his max contract. This could be seen as circumventing the entire max max contract system, which is way worse than just going over the cap. The max contract literally exists to prevent this. Rich owners paying superstars whatever they want. If Ballmer found a loophole, every billionaire owner in the league is going to want him punished hard. And speaking of other owners, the reaction around the league has been fascinating. Nobody's defending the Clippers except Mark Cuban. The Warriors, Lakers, Suns, all these teams in the Western Conference who've been competing against Kawhi and the Clippers, they're silent. You know that they're loving this. Now, the NBA's investigation is ongoing, but here's what we know about potential punishments. Yes, they could lose draft picks like the Timberwolves did with Joe Smith. Yes, they could face massive fines, but there's a nuclear option that nobody's really talking about. The league could force Steve Ballmer to sell the team. I know this sounds crazy because this happened to the Clippers very recently. They forced Donald Sterling to sell for racist comments. If they prove Ballmer systematically cheated the salary cap, which undermines the entire competitive balance of the league, that might be seen as just as damaging to the NBA's integrity. And here's something wild. If Kawhi Leonard's contract gets voided, he becomes an unrestricted free agent immediately. The OKC Thunder have cap space. The San Antonio Spurs have cap space. Imagine Kawhi Leonard having to go back to San Antonio after everything that happened. The basketball god's sense of humor would be unmatched. But what really gets me here is the fact that Steve Ballmer rushed into an interview to say that he's the victim. I mean, this man didn't just casually invest in aspiration. The Clippers signed a $300 million sponsorship deal with them. They were going to be the founding partner of the Intuit Dome. This wasn't some random investment. This was deeply integrated into the Clippers business. And now Ballmer wants us to believe he had no idea what was going on. He wants us to believe he never asked why this company was paying his star player $48 million. He never wondered why Kawhi Leonard never posted about them, never appeared at their events, never did any of the work. The most damning thing might be what Ballmer said about his relationship with Kawhi. He said they sit down a couple of times a year to talk about the team. A couple of times a year? Your franchise player who you're paying $50 million to this season, who you built your entire team around, who you built a $2 billion arena for, and you talk to him a couple of times a year? That's either a lie or it's the weirdest owner-star player relationship in the entire NBA. Look, I've been covering the NBA for 6 years now, going on year 7, and I wanted to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for supporting me and this incredible community of over 1 million subscribers that we built. And I've seen a lot of scandals, but this one is significantly different, guys. I mean, this isn't just about money or draft picks or a star player that wants out. This isn't about a lottery pick exposing himself with a psychologist or a generational talent eating himself out of the NBA. This is about whether the richest owner in sports tried to buy a championship by secretly paying players outside the salary cap structure. And if he did, if the NBA proves this happened, it changes everything. Every free agency negotiation, every max contract discussion, every time a player takes less money to join a certain team, everyone's going to wonder what's happening behind the scenes. The Clippers just opened a $2 billion arena. They've got James Harden making $46 million. They signed Bradley Beal on a veteran minimum contract. They traded Norman Powell for John Collins. They signed Brook Lopez to bolster their bench. And they've even admitted to trying to save cap space for 2027 to make a huge run at a superstar. They're trying to compete for their first championship in franchise history, and now their best player might have his contract voided. They might lose multiple first-round picks, and their owner might be suspended or worse. All for $48 million. To Steve Ballmer, that's literally nothing. That's like you or me risking our entire career for $20. It doesn't make sense unless this is how business has always been done, and they just got caught this time. The wildest part, we still haven't heard from Kawhi Leonard. Not a word. The man who barely talks when everything's going well has gone completely silent when his entire career might be on the line. No denial, no statement, no, I had no idea what was happening, nothing. You know what that tells me? His lawyers probably told him to shut up. And when lawyers tell you to shut up, it's usually because talking can only make things worse. The next few weeks are going to be crucial. The NBA's investigation is going to dig deep. They're going to look at emails, texts, bank records. Adam Silver has the power to seize phones and computers. They're going to interview everyone involved. And remember, the feds are already investigating aspiration for fraud, which means there's a parallel criminal investigation happening. If someone lied to NBA investigators, they might end up lying to federal investigators, and that's how you end up in prison. This story is far from over. In fact, I think we're just getting started, because if the Clippers did this to Kawhi, who else did they do it with? And if the Clippers are doing it, what other teams are doing it too? We might be be looking at the beginning of the NBA's biggest scandal in decades. Or maybe Ballmer's telling the truth and he really is just the world's richest victim of a tree planting scam. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.